first granddaughter.
Oh, mashallah.
Alhamdulillah. She is 6 by the name of Wardah. She's not here today. She is in Riyadh with the parents. But on the day, a book was launched by Sastrawan Negara Sastrawan Negara Syed, and this is the book. Yeah, kumpulan puisi Zainiy Ujang. Kalau ada yang bertanya, I mention about this because in the context of intellectual development, so a lot of people at the end of their career, they try to summarize their thinking in the form of poetry. So Professor Wan Matno, Wan Daud, I was told is finishing his book, or completing his book, or going to publish his book soon on big collections of his poetry. I think this is very important. And I would like to read a small phrase of this. This poetry is very interesting because it's about knowledge. So the title of this poetry is Makna Perpustakaan. Yeah. So it was written on my birthday on March 9th, 2019.
Oh.
So this book was launched on the birthday of my granddaughter, and this very piece was written during my birthday. So I read the final para. Perpustakaan adalah tentang cinta dan harga sebuah nusa dan bangsa, tentang tinta dan warna sebuah warga dan negara. Yeah, this is how we put it. And then there is another poems, but title is Belilah Buku. So we will not find this kind of title or this except in this book probably. Belilah, murah harganya tetapi mahal nilainya. Yeah. So we have new books published by Akademi Jawi. They are sponsoring our Bicara Buku. That I think it's my obligation to promote the book. The latest book by Sheikh Abdul Rauf bin Ali Al-Fansuri Al-Jawi by the name of Dahakik Al-Huruf, and pengenalan kajian dan perumian oleh Ridwan Arif. So this is a very nicely presented book. It's well published. I would like to read this during this, they call it winter break, end of the year, so somewhere. So please get this copy. So I would like to pass this to Professor Zainiy. Please, tafadhal.
Thank you, Dato. Bismillahirrahmanirrahim. Alhamdulillah rabbil alamin, salatu wassalamu ala alihi wa sahbihi ajma'in. At the outset of the discussion today, the book is not an easy book. Okay, it has only about 30-something paragraphs, but I think for some people it might be of a lifetime kind of trying to understand it, because it requires some background knowledge to really get into the meat of the book. So what we intend to do in this discussion is not to go to every detail of it. That would mean it requires a proper class, but more of an introduction what the discussion is all about. As Dato Sri Zaini was mentioning earlier, that it is a chapter of a bigger book. The book is Prolegomena to the Metaphysics of Islam, and the history of the book is that it was originally developed in this format. This is called a monograph, and the chapters in this Prolegomena began its life in this format. It was written individually, but it was published when ISTAC was established. Why ISTAC was established? Well, why is it in 1990? Professor al-Attas was installed as the University Professor of Islamic Thought and Civilization at IIU in 1987, if I'm not mistaken. And among his tasks was to develop something called ISTAC. So ISTAC was operating not at the new building that you see now, the new building, the grand building, that has now been a place for influencers and and weddings and what have you. And not even at the older building, which is at what, Jalan Damansara. It was operating in a small bungalow, PJ section 15 of Jalan Sultan Abu Bakar, I think. When I came back to Malaysia in 1991, I think. So this book, I didn't see the book yet because it was published in 1990. I didn't see the book beforehand. It's only after I returned to Malaysia in 1991 that I got perhaps a chance of looking at it and reading it. But Professor al-Attas began the series of what is called the Saturday night lectures, elaborating on the monographs, and each of the monographs, because it started out with this prolegomena, I will explain a little bit about the whole project in a sense. Islam, the concept of religion, foundation of ethics and morality. That's the first chapter. Which something quite unique, Dato Sri, that Professor al-Attas begins a discussion on metaphysics with a foundation on Islam, the religion. So this is something quite unique, and it is unique in the history of ideas, really, because metaphysics has always been the purview of philosophy, not the purview of religion. But Professor al-Attas put at the very foundation of the discussion religion. And for those who really want to go deep or have a more involved kind of analysis of what is going on here, why Professor al-Attas says that it has to begin with Islam, the religion, you have to read the earlier works of Western philosophers when they talk about metaphysics. Because by the early 20th century, metaphysics is already basically not dead, but it has no function. It's only in the interest of philosophers. Because metaphysics is something that Aristotle somehow cooked up, you know. We'll get into the meaning of metaphysics in a bit. It is something quite quaint and quite difficult to understand. Partly because science is not interested in metaphysics, you see, and which is why one of the main problems, Dato Sri, that the subject of this particular book, the Prolegomena to the Metaphysics of Islam, has escaped a serious consideration by even serious readers and serious thinkers, because many serious readers and thinkers among us would regard metaphysics, I've never heard of that. And intuition of existence, what in the world is that? It is not important, because I want to hear what is the newest invention, what is the newest discovery in physics, in chemistry, in biology, what is the newest medicine, you know, that is more advanced. But this is why, Dato Sri, Professor al-Attas is trying to bring us back the notion of what is knowledge, really, isn't it? Yeah. Because he wants to bring back the discussion of metaphysics. Now, Aristotle was quite correct, you know, because the classification of so-called, what is called science, of things that we know, has basically, after the 17th century, the scientific revolution, the age of reason, has somehow brought the ken of understanding into just the material world, the world of empirical science, the world of measurement, the world of temperature, you know, the world of sight and sound.
Meta means not real.
Meta means it's not real. It is beyond what is called physics, beyond physical existence.
For example, Meta company?
Meta company?
I mean, the name of the company is Meta.
Oh, you mean what Zuckerberg is doing?
Yeah.
They want to metamorphosize it even bigger. Meta means something beyond what you can see. That's what it is. But it is real nonetheless. That's why he wants to call it Meta. Google goes for alphabet. But, you know, Zuckerberg goes to Meta. Something which is beyond what you know now physically, but it is real and it have effectual ramifications in your life. That's what meta is all about. Physics has been, Dato, in the study of sciences, physics has been considered to be the science, because physics unravel the mystery of the universe.
Yeah.
You can find solutions of the movement of planets, and then everything is physics. That's why if you follow the Big Bang theory, Sheldon was saying theoretical physics is the real science. The rest are not science at all. But what is fascinating, Dato Sri, when you look at theoretical physics, as we have been mentioning about this many times, all the equations that they have written is using a representation of the behavior of what they see in natural phenomena. But those equations, the alphanumeric, in and of themselves has no meaning. Like alpha,
Yeah.
pi. Suddenly pi becomes a constant that makes your calculation. And then we have, for example, an imaginary number. Mathematicians and physicists, they swear by it. It is an imaginary number, but it works. They have no way of pointing that it is real. In fact, for that matter, numbers has no real existence. You don't see 7 running about. That's the fascinating thing about the world of numbers. That's why earlier Greek philosophers talks about that these numbers are among the things that created the universe. And that's why Kepler, when he was trying to solve the problem of the elliptical orbit, he played with the harmonics of music, because there's some kind of harmony, and those notes, you cannot take it out because it's a natural phenomena.
So
you cannot see.
So looking at the name of the company, observing we are talking about metaphysics here.
Yes.
Means that Zuckerberg is trying to bring to the bigger thing.
That's why it's a metamorphosis of the company.
Yeah.
Something that beyond human cognition and comprehension now. And that's what metaphysics is all about, really. Because one of the works of Aristotle after physics, metaphysics, politics, Nicomachean ethics, and whatever finally he has a chapter on metaphysics. He did not classify this. It is his student, Alexander Aphrodisias, who did this. But what is the emphasis of metaphysics? That's the thing. We're not going to go into Western metaphysics. That would be another charita. But we are going to talk about what Prof is trying to say here. And it is something very important, Dato Sri.
Yeah.
Prolegomena to the metaphysics of Islam, an exposition of the fundamental elements of the worldview of Islam. This is very important, the worldview. That's what he wants to get at. Because what is happening right now is that the worldview that we are all apparently either inherited or being trained or being conditioned to think has become a very empirical world. And thereby, what is called metaphysics is completely left out. Prof. al-Attas is trying to bring back religion at its prime function. Because we have somehow, we somehow suffered this secularization of ideas. Religion do not enter science. Betul tak? It's very strange to talk about religion in science now. Yeah. In fact, don't talk about religion in philosophy, because philosophy is very much Western oriented now. So you cannot talk. That is why, for example, Aqidah, you cannot bring into philosophy, because then there are certain segment of the society who say, oh, Aqidah should remain in religion. It is the purview of kalam. We shouldn't entertain the philosophical, otherwise it become philosophical aspect of Islam. No, the point is every single aspect of thought that is produced by human being must be under the purview of religion. Otherwise, we fall into the error of breaking things into what is called secularized compartment of knowledge, not compartmentalization of knowledge for for efficiency's sake. But now, some people say, oh, don't bring philosophy into this. But we, the Muslims, inherited knowledge from the Greeks and the Roman and the Indian and the Chinese. We somehow managed to, although Prof. al-Attas introduced this term later, Islamize it, but some people might find a little bit uneasy with the term of Islamization of knowledge. But what Prof. al-Attas is saying is quite correct, because when your mental framework is shaped by Islam, how you think will be Islamized, isn't it?
Yeah.
Like, for example, when you want to go overseas, the first thing you look for is halal places. That's because of you are being conditioned to think in an Islamic way. See? Does it somehow limit knowledge? No, it is not. It is opening a new venture. You know, like for example, in the early 80s, Dato Seri, the Arab tourist starts coming to Malaysia, isn't it? They're demanding that their woman has a separate swimming pool or separate segregated time. What do? We comply to that. Otherwise, they will go somewhere else. I remember an old sheikh from Saudi Arabia. I met him at PWTC, and we had a chat. And I said, "Why are you here?" He said, "On vacation, following his son, the family." "How long are you going to be here?" He said, 3 months. "What do you like about it here?" He says, "In the hotel I can pray. In the mall I have halal food." This is for him unthinkable if he were to go to America or England, you see. So this is why the framework of thought, this is why Prof. al-Attas wants to bring back the element of metaphysics, because we have to think about the primacy of it. Mm-hmm. Why is it, for example, Aristotle talks about metaphysics? Because it is something very important.
Physics was named after a branch of science.
No, not after a branch of science, to describe a branch of science. Like chemistry, it is a branch of science describing the nature of the chemical reaction. Just like biology is a study of things with life.
Because whenever we say physics, it is
the physical world.
I mean, when the word physics is mentioned, people are referring to physics.
Just physics.
Physics, science, or physics.
The science.
The science. I'm not a physicist. I'm
no.
Something like that.
Right.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So why it is too
narrow
in definition?
Because of what happened in the 17th century. The age of reason, the scientific revolution, you know, because they found out that religion in the Christian world failed to describe what is happening in the natural world. They have been hooked on it for a long time. For example, they talk about the Ptolemaic cosmology, the description of how the world is regarded at the center of the universe, and then you have many layers of heavens. You have the sun at the fourth, the moon, and then I think at the eighth was the realm of the firmament, where the stars are fixed, and the ninth and the tenth level of the world, which is also called by the philosophers the 10th intelligence. That is where what is called in Latin, Orbium Celestium Habitucolum Dei, the place where God resides. Because that's Aristotelian, and they found out that's not working. So by the time of Copernicus changed the whole thing.
So metaphysics is not the branch of. So if you say, my question is this:
yes.
If you say physics, so people refer to a body of knowledge, but metaphysics is not a body of knowledge.
It is a branch of science, and it has its own body of knowledge.
But I think because of Zuckerberg started with Meta, it's the best time for us to introduce metaphysics now. Yeah. So I think I raised this question because of keduniaan, that bahasa Melayu.
Yeah.
When you talk about physical thing, we call dunia.
Yeah.
So dia tu sangat bersifat duniawi.
And this is why Prof. al-Attas starts in the introduction that the worldview of Islam looks at both dimensions, the duniawi and the ukhrawi. And there is no separation or stop or gap between the two. The world that we are now conditioned to live, experience, think is only dunyawi. Religion, ukhrawi, is religion. And that is why you find that religion is not so-called logical. There are things metaphysical that cannot be explained. And they say, this is agama. So agama becomes illogical, irrational, and then some people will attribute it as, this is why you get irrational behavior from people who believe in religion. So they do crazy things. Among them maybe terrorism. They have no way, you cannot explain their behavior. Tengoklah orang Melayu mengamuk. No, but you know, that's not what it is, because what Prof. Al-Attas is saying is metaphysics is very, very intellectual, but there are aspects of it. And this is why he wants to explain why it is. And if you look closely, every monograph, the degrees of existence, which is one of the last chapters of the Prolegomena, has no subtitle. The nature of man and psychology of the human soul, there's a subtitle. And the subtitle is a brief outline of the framework for an Islamic psychology and epistemology. Because, Dato Sri, knowledge is purely human experience. So we must know the nature of psychology of man and epistemology, how we know, how we arrive at knowledge. So the soul of man is, that is one thing, Dato Sri, that belongs to the world of metaphysics, the soul, one element. Because if you do not believe in the soul, you belong to those people who believe that we are just, a conglomerate of atoms and molecules and what have you. We are an accident in the soup of chemistry.
Yeah.
So there is no need for value, there is no need for religion, there is no need for even rational thinking. Why must I think rational? If I'm an animal, you classify, there's animal, and then there's animal that has reason. Yeah, but if I want to be an animal, it's a free world, by the way. Who wants to decide? That's why metaphysics is so important. And one of it is the soul. This is what Prof. Al-Attas describes, a brief outline for the framework in Islamic psychology. And when you come to intuition of existence, he has the subtitle, and it is a fundamental basis of Islamic metaphysics. So it has to be intuition of existence for you to really understand what is the framework of an Islamic metaphysics. But why is it so important? Well, the physical world, the world that we see, we experience, we taste, we touch, that all of us can benefit from, of earlier research, of enrichment of knowledge. And that is why the Muslims have no problem with knowledge coming from the Greek, coming from China, coming from India, coming from earlier civilization. That's not a problem at all. But when it comes to the nature of metaphysics, which is the source of what we know as knowledge. For example, if you deny religion, then you must deny the function of revelation. So what's the point of believing in Quran? What's the point believing in the Quran? And revelation is one of the elements of the metaphysics in Islam.
Metaphysics cakap Melayu apa?
Good question.
Ustaz-ustaz mengajar apa?
Because this term has been introduced by the Greek philosophers. The term is basically Greek, metaphysic, which is beyond apa tu. It is translated into Arabic. Case in point, for example, Ibn Rushd, who is known Maliki punya mujtahid, and his book Bidayatul anyways, sometimes the name of the book escapes me. He translated, he write commentaries. He write commentaries on Aristotelian works. And on this particular chapter, he translated metaphysics literally into Arabic. No, into Arabic. Ma ba'da tabi'ah. What is beyond physical, which is metaphysics. So therefore, it means, I'm sorry to say, with my due respect to Ibn Rushd, he has not yet captured the matter properly. So that is the earlier experience of Islam coming into a face to face with Western philosophy. So I don't want to use the term. I think I should use Greek philosophy. So he translated really literally. That's what happens. Ma ba'da at-tabi'ah. So ba'da at-tabi'ah. Some of these words we may understand in Malay. Tabi'ah is tabi'at. But what it means in Arabic is that, and this is why it's so fascinating for those who follow these discussions and know Arabic. Tabi'ah in Arabic means something that has been imprinted. What is it that is being imprinted? In the metaphysics of Islam, that's why you have someone who does the imprint, and who is God, Allah. See? And the tabi'ah is something that is imprinted. Now, this is where the metaphysics of Islam, what Prof. al-Attas is discussing, is there. But because he wrote this in English, and he purposely did not use the term in Arabic, it might escape some of the Arabic readers to understand what it really is. So I'm in the process of translating this into Malay. So here's the term. What is metaphysics? It is ru'yatul haqa'iq.
Ru'yatul haqa'iq.
Yeah. Ru'yatul haqa'iq. Ru'yah is a vision. Now, why we call vision? Because for us, the vision is not this vision. Physics, Dato Seri, is based on the eye vision. I can measure, I can see. Betul tak? That's what modern science is all about. It's what you can observe. But from the Muslim point of view, metaphysics has something to do with the inner vision, the ru'yah. Kalau we know that our prophets and people of a certain disposition that Allah Ta'ala has granted them with this vision, that's called ru'yah. And sometimes they may not be people of high elevated status, like the friends of Yusuf in the prison. They're thieves, but they saw something. So that is vision. And so it may come in the form of a dream, but it is true and real nonetheless. You need somebody to be able to interpret it. And this is where then people say, well, but religion, metaphysics, it's not very reliable. Well, when was science very reliable? You have to take many experimentation and many repeats. But in our experience, there are many people who repeat the same experience. Prophets and people who have been endowed with a certain gifts. Right? So this is why, this argument I learned from Professor Pasalan, really. He said, because there are so many luminary sages long before the discovery of scientific method, which is experimentation. How do they come to realize that something is true and real? There's no repeat. This scientific method was developed very late, isn't it? And it's being taught now for any students in natural sciences. It's being taught as a basic for anything about science. Yeah, you want to ask something?
Isn't metaphysics a branch of philosophy?
Yes. Is metaphysics a branch of philosophy? Yes, it is. That's why I say it's a branch of knowledge. And it is part of the whole superstructure of what Aristotle talks about, physics, metaphysics, biology, chemistry, ethics, and eventually he has a book called, Metaphysics. Yeah, it is. It is a branch of philosophy, which is why it is very problematic, Dato Seri, because Professor al-Attas talks here the fundamental metaphysics of Islam. So is Professor al-Attas trying to bring philosophy into Islam? No, he's not trying to do that at all. Remember, the body of knowledge that we inherit the body of knowledge from all civilizations. One of the branch of science or knowledge that we have not really looked at it closely, but our ulama have done, like for example, as I said, Ibn Rushd has translated this book of Aristotle, Ma Ba'da Tabi'ah. That means they have looked at it. But what Prof. al-Attas is trying to do here is trying to bring this whole discussion into the purview of Islam. And that's why he says it's a muqaddimah. It's an introduction to what should be understood as metaphysics in Islam. There are metaphysical elements which we may not want to bring in the purview, under the purview of Islam. See? But how should we look at it? Just like, okay, now there is now a discussion, we need to make a hospital more Sharia compliant. It does not mean to introduce halal and haram so much. It means trying to bring in the elements of Islamic notion of ihsan and care into hospitality, into healthcare, which is missing. I remember, Dato, when we first meet on this matter, Yadim meeting when we were under the directorship of Ustaz Naquib. I brought this up. I said, Ustaz Naquib, actually, it's not about halal and haram. It's really about to bring about Islamic values and ethical norms into hospitality, which is missing. Like, for example, let us say, when we look at cleanliness in our university, we never brought the hadith of the Prophet. An-nadhafatu minal iman. So people just clean, oh, this is not my job. But it's not, they don't look at, this is my iman. An-nadhafatul minal iman. I mean, if you bring that to the Department of Cleanliness, I think the whole university will be very clean after this. But it has never been brought like that, because it has never been in the purview of hospitality, service, Islamic values or Islamic virtues. It's never been brought. And Dato Sri wanted to introduce key amal indicators at UTM, remember? And that's the problem, because we cannot see that dimension. This is why the metaphysics is missing, Dato Sri. And when we talk, for example, now there is now a resurgence of the concept of adab. Yeah, what is adab? For some people, following procedure. Betul tak? But Islamic virtue is going beyond procedures, because there are some things that requires no paperwork. You can just bypass it, isn't it? Because there's an element called ihsan. Inna Allah ya'murkum an tu'addu amanata ila ahliha wa idha hakamtum bainas fahkum bainas bil adli wal ihsan. That means you do justice, but you supplement it with ihsan, which is beyond justice. That, Dato' Sri, has not been emphasized. We have been emphasizing justice. Tit for tat. I bagi you juga, you bagi I bagi you. SOP. No, the idea in Islamic virtue and values, it is ihsan. It is not there. And these are elements of metaphysics, that's what I say. It has to do with values, but no. So this is why it is very important what Prof. al-Attas is trying to write here. And this is why he's not looking, in this book, he doesn't emphasize on the ibadat. It is there, he mentioned in the chapter on Islam, foundation of ethics, foundation, concept of religion, foundation of ethics. So he mentioned that, but he's emphasizing in that on the ethics and morality, where normally religion for us has no connection with ethics and morality. For us, religion is, I'm going to pray at this masjid. I'm going to Umrah once a year, I'm going to but you come back, there's nothing that reflects in your activity, your daily life, in your thought, in your manner, that you are living the Islamic virtues and living by the Islamic values.
Again, this is very important. And siapa yang nak ada soalan nanti boleh tanya in between, sebab saya fikir ada persoalan dalam. You can read. There are someone who
really asking. There's someone asking questions.
Sometime. Yeah. When we mentioned about ethics, sometime in this book is very important. Assuming you are teaching engineering, and suddenly you have a subject called engineering ethics. So this is the only subject that we are trying to get people to teach, because no one would like to take that as their profession. It is considered you can have things without engineering ethics. Ethics is to be learned throughout, and it's based on you. It's values anyway. So it's very difficult for us in some universities. Engineering ethics is done by retired professors, part-timers, you know, but not top-notch professors. Top-notch professors think ethics yeah. So whereas ethics is very important, otherwise we cannot read this book.
Yeah. So this is why Professor Attas, remember at the beginning of the Prolegomena to the Metaphysics of Islam, one of the elements of the worldview is values and virtues, right? So you're quite right, Dato Sri. Even in a practical profession, ethics is left out because you don't know where to put it. And as I've been saying, even people who teach religion, ethics is not there. And this is why Professor al-Attas is perhaps the only one who talks about adab. And even that, people misunderstood him, what he means by adab. You know, because people think that, you know, adab is respecting the elder. Good manners and decorum. No, he even referred to this. There should be tartib, order, justice, even to knowledge. And this is why we must understand epistemology. So this is why he wants to bring about the idea of intuition of existence. Why is it important? So let's just jump into it a little bit. Okay, I'm not going to go very detailed, but one of the problems why this book, Intuition of Existence, is very difficult is because of those three words. Actually two. What is intuition? What the heck of it, you know? It's not thinking, because thinking I understand, my brain works.
Yeah.
But what is intuition? My God, this is difficult. And then existence, what? Put aside, better have Pringles potato chips, you know, rather than worry about intuition of existence. No, but this is something at the very core of it. This is why you have to do. It has to do with the nature of man, the psychology of the human soul, and the way Professor al-Attas has organized it. It is like that. It has to follow a certain thing. It has to do with Islam and the philosophy of science. Meaning, what do we mean by knowledge to begin with? And then man, as in Arabic it's called the alim, the knower, he who actually experiences knowledge, not just knowledge as separate from him. Knowledge is not separate from you. It's in you, and that's why you feel knowledge. And this is one of the elements, very fundamental ideas in this Islamic metaphysics, particularly intuition of existence, the idea of experience. As I've been saying dulu, I remember here at Tuzi, why is it that we do experimentation and repeat of experiments of the past? Is actually to experience the knowledge. You have to do your lab work. I remember, you know, doing physics undergraduate. Oh my God. Repeat experiment. You have read about it, you know, Michelson, Morley experiments. Why do I have to do it again? Actually, to appreciate it. And then, I remember when I was a fellow in Oxford, one Malaysian student asking me, he said, Dr. Zaini, the assignment in my class is, the professor asked me to read the most recent article in a journal and try to find the lacking of it. Criticize. So that's what it is. You see, that's knowledge. And that's the basis of it, so that you can see where the thing is. See? You are then at the as they call it, really knowledge. You know at the edge of it, isn't it? To a certain point. So where is this intuition of existence? So I'm jumping, but I have to. You know, the British surgeon Peter Medawar, he wrote a book called Intuition, meaning scientists as good as him, a well-known British surgeon. This is a long time ago. He does not deny the function of intuition. One example may be like they say the discovery of the double helix nuclear DNA. It was done by either Crick or Watson in a dream. So that is really a vision. And this is why Ibn Sina, in his book autobiography, he said whenever he has a problem that he cannot solve, You make 2 wudu. He make wudu and pray 2 rak'ah. And if he cannot still solve it after that, he sleeps. And with the clear mind, sometimes the solution appears before him. Really, some people have that experience. So these are experiences which are real, and suddenly you can write, the solution. It's not something that you actually, really.
Last 2 nights, I woke up, I was writing a book. I'm still writing a book. And it is an incident in Mecca, to this 100 days of journey. And I woke at 3 o'clock. I told my wife I have to do something, because I think what I wrote was wrong. Because it was not that day it's happened. So bagi tahu my wife, you bangun malam tadi buat apa? Kata, oh, I think my writing was wrong.
You call it gut feeling.
Yeah.
But that is intuition of a lower degree.
Yeah.
Intuition have many degrees. Yeah, this is what Prof. al-Attas is trying to say. That part he talks about, farqul awal, it's so difficult. Apa ini separation lah, separation. Okay, we'll get to it eventually. So that's how an introduction is. That's why he says here, our understanding of intuition is not that really. That's one experience, because Western scientists tend to think that intuition is, you have been brooding, you've been working at the problem, thinking about it, and then like Sean Connery in Raiders of the Lost Ark or something, he said, if I want to solve a problem, I sit down. Then the solution will present itself.
Ilham, intuition?
Yeah, in one sense it is ilham, yeah. And they call it inspiration. You are like that, to say. In my case, my wife knows very well. After I've been thinking for a long time, reading, I say it's time to walk, to go somewhere. So she drove me around, and then maybe we go to a shopping mall, have coffee, and then I say it's time to go home. The ideas just congeal in my mind, and I know what to write then. Somehow it just falls in place, you see. Some people, they're mechanical like that. This is why I think some Western philosophers, they call themselves peripatetic philosophers. They do their thinking by walking, the masha'is in Arabic tradition, the masha'iyun. And they are the followers of Aristotelian philosophy. So I remember when I was a fellow in Oxford, I wanted to meet an old friend of Prof. al-Attas. He was teaching at the Oriental Institute. I forgot his name now. He said, would you like to come to my office? And I said, no, I think it's a nice day in Oxford. Why don't we just walk around the gardens? Yeah, I said, it's a wonderful idea. We walked for about 3 hours, not feeling anything. The same thing, my first experience meeting with TJ Winter. I was a visitor. I said, because I was just visiting London, looking for some books that Prof. al-Attas sent me. And I said, can we meet? I said, yeah, okay, we'll walk. We shall walk. He said, you get off in front of this Bangladeshi mosque. And then I'll pick you up, or, then we walk. So we walk around Christchurch Garden. So it's very nice, You go, gardens in Oxford, you walk for hours and hours, you don't feel it. Yeah, the only thing that might get you is the cold. Yeah. So intuition have many expressions. Yeah. You may have different impressions of it and different experiences. It is wrong to think that it is only intellectual. It is not intellectual. This is what Prof. al-Attas is trying to explain. Intuition of existence, because existence is not a mathematical problem. It is not a social construct. See, he's trying to say here, that we experience things like this book, like this cup, we drink water. So this is what is called the first separation. The alim and the ma'lum, the subject and the object, we must be separated. But in order to actually experience it, we must be one with it. You hold the cup, you drink the water, you read the book, there is the union. Itu dipanggil ittihad. Tapi even at that ittihad, you will find this word in the book, okay? But I'm not going to go line by line. This ittihad even implies a separation. And this is why when it is a intuition of existence, you experience your existence. How is it that you experience your existence? Well, the best example I can give you is, do you experience your breathing? You don't actually. You don't feel it until you actually sesak nafas. Then you really appreciate breathing. You know? Like for example, it is only when you lose something that you appreciate what you have. Otherwise, it is subconscious. Macam myself, I'm losing my hearing. So when I take this hearing aid, the world just go silent by maybe 10 to 20%. You know, you don't feel your head until you have a headache. Really? Betul tak? You don't feel your head until you have a headache. You don't feel your legs until you have gout. Oh my God. You have gout, you cannot even move. That is experiencing the thing in itself. What do you experience? You feel pain. You feel pain. But what is it really? And that's why some people, they live happily with pain. It's not a problem at all because they redha with it, you know. Because for some people, they accept this is the gift of Allah Ta'ala. That is metaphysics juga, Dato Seri, at one level. But we don't care, we don't bring it under the element of metaphysics. We bring it under, you know, redha, religious virtues. But actually, virtues, values, under metaphysics, you know. So that's why we need to bring this back again. So Prof. al-Attas is trying to do this. So intuition is actually experiencing it. That's what the Quran describes about breathing. وَالسُّبْحِ إِذَا تَنَفَّسْ. You don't even feel subuh. You don't feel subuh coming because it's so subconscious. Suddenly, hey, it's bright. And that's why, you know, there is a difference between Fajar and Subuh. Fajar is before Subuh. Subuh, yeah. Because that's what the word misbah in Arabic is, lampu. It's so bright. Fajar is the break of dawn. So the best time to think is at Fajar, or even before Fajar, you know. And that's why we are encouraged to do Qiyam, which is before Fajar. And fascinating. So this intuition, it has nothing to do with the intellectual work. Meaning it's not the work of the brain. It's not the work of the intellect. You cannot think. So our intuition is not about the scientific intuition, what they understand as intuition. It's not even, like we said earlier, inspiration. Because inspiration is actually something being inspired in you. That is a different level altogether. It has something to do with the experience of intuition. In Arabic, Dato Sri, the word, 3 words in English, intuition of existence. In Arabic, 1 word.
Intuition?
Intuition of existence in English. To translate into Arabic, only 1 word. Wijdan.
Wijdan.
Sebab itu ada orang namanya wijdan.
Intuition, experience, and
Existence.
existence.
In 1 word, it's called wijdan. So, it is from the word wajada, which means to find something. To find something. Yeah. But what is it that you find? You find existence. That's why it becomes, kalau philosophically, it says this is tautological. You're not defining anything, you know.
So wijdat too is from
Wijdan.
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 So it's from the words
Wajada, to find something. Then in Arabic is waw, jim, dal, alif, nun. Wijdan. Arabic ni kalau different construction, dia will bring you different meaning, you know. What is it that you find? It's from the verb wajada. What is it that you find? You find wujud.
wujud.
Yeah, but here's the thing.
Wujud. Existence is wujud.
Yeah, here's the thing pula. Existence is not the way we understand existence, because this is what Prof. al-Attas has been saying at the very beginning of this discussion. Because for us, we tend to think existence is something like, okay, when we say, I exist, that means I am here, and you can see me, and I have certain attribute. But you don't actually see existence. You see some aspects of me, meaning my height, my skin color, my tone of voice, my spectacles, you know, my pantalon, you don't actually see me, because me, in myself, is my soul. You do not see me. That's what I've been telling my students. Look, when you marry someone, it'll be very difficult for you to know the person, because you are trying to understand or to know the person, the soul of the person. Good luck, I said. It will take you a whole lifetime. Even after she or he dies, you never know the soul of the person. And that is why you must know the person as it is. This is not being secular or carpe diem. No. It is the true manifestation of the person. And this is why Allah Ta'ala teaches us to be redha. You know, today my wife is a little bit angry. Alhamdulillah. Today you are a little bit angry. So it happens, you know. But you must learn and control that. So this is why what we actually experience these are called the athar, the effects. No. These are effects. The effects of what? In the beginning it was a tree. The tree has made a lot of pahala. But you know, you have to turn it into pulp and what have you. So then you go beyond that. What was before the tree? You might say a seed. What was before the seed? Where does it come from? And eventually, well, something beyond it exists. For the scientists, they stop at the physical world. So they say, oh, there must be atoms. We experience atoms and molecules. And you ask them, are atoms and molecules really physical? Do you really see them? You don't. You actually see effects of them. You see waves now. They call it, you know, well, like for example, light. It's light waves. It behaves like a particle. It's called a photon. Even that, you observe the effects of something called light. You go beyond light. What produces light? You call energy. Do you see energy walking about? No, you see effects of energy. Mm-hmm. That's why Prof. al-Attas is trying to say, this is why you actually experience existence. No, the question now is that when you measure, you measure effects of this thing, the manifestation of it. And this is why all these things are called multifaceted, multivariated, you know, the multiplicity of, in actual fact, existence manifesting itself. Now, this is the metaphysics of it, not the physics of it. How the physics of it? Well, this book is, you know, the paper is maybe Western paper. That's the physics of it. The glue of a certain chemical compound, that's why it smells like that, you know. Oh, there's a signature Prof. al-Attas, there's an ink, you know, that's physics, you know. But the metaphysics of it is to go beyond it. How do we experience it? So the physical science, this is real. But the soul, from physical science point of view, is not real, because you cannot see. And this is why Richard Dawkins and the others who talks about secularists. What is his name? I forgot his name now. Anyways, most of the Western philosophers now, they deny existence of God. And so to think about God is very delusional.
Probably they deny in public, but in person they...
Oh no, some of them no.
Yeah?
Yeah, some of them deny God entirely.
Yeah, so because some of my friends, they don't mix between religion and science. They might go to, say for example, to church.
Yeah.
Say, Clay Christensen, he is a very religious person. He was very religious. Well, I mean, he died. So, but he didn't put anything in the theory of destructive innovation that he proposed.
At a certain level, Dato, the physical world, we do not disagree with Western thinkers, philosophers, and scientists. There are certain aspects of it that we agree, meaning, like Newton was saying, somebody wrote a book called, I forgot the name of the book. Anyway, he mentioned that Newton, when he goes into his laboratory, he closed the door, you know, there's no God in here. He leaves God behind the door. What it means is that I'm not going to bring in any supernatural powers into my observation. I'm going to observe and record it as such. So in many ways, we can agree with that because a dimension of what is called observable dimension. So, but we do not want to deny the other non-observable dimension. We call in in religious language alam ghaib. This, the physical world that we see, is called alam shahada. See, we must demystify these terms, all right? Because we must bring about that religion discusses the same world that we are facing, we are experiencing. But what we must do is we must somehow bring it to the point that we can appreciate the function of the intuition of existence. Why is it? I remember after finishing this chapter reading, when Professor Attas was compiling it to be part of this, I said, Professor Attas, I only wish that Muslim scientists, physicists in particular, would really understand what you have written in the Prolegomena to the Metaphysics of Islam, because it will bring about a new appreciation. Because remember, Dato, this is why history of science is very important to teach. And unfortunately, we don't teach that here. The progress of science from the earliest of all, but we always take it from the Greeks, unfortunately, and bring it down to the Middle Ages. The Middle Ages, unfortunately, the contribution of the Muslim scientists are completely neglected because they regard that as the age of the Dark Ages for the Western world. And this knowledge basically under the purview of some priest who doesn't want to share things or whatever. And then you have the 17th century, the beginning of the scientific revolution. And that's where things starts to become quite interesting. Darwin, 1800s, and then previous to that, you have people who come to this part of the world. And it goes along together with the age of colonization, 1600s, the Dutch coming here. And this is why, for example, you see Raffles writing things about here, and you see anyone who associated with the age of colonization, they would write something about places that they go. And so that's how we have records. And for some reason, what happened to the Muslim world at that time? Well, that is something that we have to do a study on, because the Ottoman Caliphate at that point was really busy with its own collapsing of the civilization at that point. The empire was collapsing. We may not have been functioning quite efficiently as an empire or a major world power at that time. Remember, I like the work of Edward Kennedy that talks about, it takes a lot to maintain a huge civilization. You look at America, how many military bases that they have to maintain, isn't it? Mm-hmm. Yeah. And Timo Kuran in his book The Long Divergence, it started with the Westerners. When they go out into trading, they make sure that these traders have the backing of the army and the state, and they are accompanied by missionaries. So that's why when you attack their interests, business interests, there'll be an army attacking. Not happening with the Muslim traders. There is not a single Muslim navy will be accompanying the Muslim traders to Maluku or Sulawesi or whatever. You go on your own, That's why, in many ways, by trade, Islam spread to this part of the world. That's why quite, in a way, quite peaceful manner. See, the other parts they may have wars and what have you. But in this part of the world, we don't have that. So coming back to this, Dato C's question, that's just a question of what is it in Malay? Ru'ya haqiqah. Ru'ya haqa'iq. Why we call it haqa'iq? It's the plural of haqiqah. And this is the term that I made, Dato C, because I'm translating this word into Malay now. And it's a vision of what is true and real. That is what our framework of metaphysics is all about. It's not only a vision of this world which is physically presenting itself to us, but it's also the vision of the world, the ghaib and the shahada together. And this is why existence is very real. It is so real that brings about these things. Now, unfortunately, our sciences, they have not discussed things beyond what is physical, the level of the atoms. And then upon that, things are built up. So that's why we have also a word that corresponds to atom. We call it jauhar. Okay, But there is another term that we use over Jauhar, and that is, for example, ma'rud, meaning a place where accidents are appended ataupun are placed. And accidents are what? Colors, you know, sound, taste, because at the very bottom of it, it is existence. So from our point of view, this world is manifestation of existence. There are many existences. There are many degrees of it. Like physical things, they exist. Animate things like us, we exist. So because there are different degrees of existence, we are manifesting different characteristics. And that is why Malaika is also a different degree. We know they exist, but we know they are unseen. Right?
Sekarang ni boleh nampak hantu. Kalau kita guna CCTV various.
And they associated that with waves, isn't it?
Ya. Ada orang nampak. Sekarang ni kalau pakai you reverse, kan ada kamera kat belakang tu kan. Kamera kat belakang kereta tu.
Yeah.
Sometimes you can see something. ada orang tengok dia tangkap gambar. So ada gambar tu orang main buai tu cabut. Kamera terakam. The waves.
So that is called, as I said, because of the haqa'iq, there are many separatedness. As I said, when we see this cup, but in order to really experience it, we have to be in union with it, ittihad. We must be like that. It's the nature of our human being. And this is why there's another level of understanding that the Quran talks about, that everything is recreated anew. Betul tak? So at every moment, things are recreated anew. This idea, only recently, I think physics and the world of science is trying to understand and accept as a truth. Because how do you explain corrosion of material? From the metaphysical point of view, it is a very long, extended process of returning to the origin of things, which is non-existence. But during that time, we call it corrosion. We call it corruption. Corruption of the material. If it's a plane, we call it metal fatigue.
Yeah.
So after some time, you cannot fly the plane. Fascinating, you know. When I was small, I used to think that this metal would last for a long time. It will never degenerate. For some reason, it degenerates. What causes that degeneration? You don't apply energy to it, but for some reason, it degenerates. So how do you explain that? You explain it. Oh, there's a corrosion, nature, humidity, temperature. Yeah. But the point is, why must it corrode? You cannot explain that. From our point of view, everything has to return back to its origin. And the origin is ma'dum. For biological life, you die. You die. As simple as that. You know. But in the process of dying, things break down. You know, your liver may not be functioning, your kidney might not be functioning, you have a fever, your body cannot reconstitute back, you know. The same thing with physical thing. You know? Sometimes you even repeated the same procedure to the letter. It still breaks. You have no way to explain it. So you might say that this is spooky. No, it's not spooky. This is why we must understand the nature of the worldview, because this is, from the wujudiya aspect, wujud is something that exists. It is brought into existence from it was not there before. So we have the idea of the creator. And this is why the creator, we call Allah, it is his possession, and it is also his attribute, something called existence. Otherwise, he cannot give it to you. See? So, philosophically, in order for us to interpret it, he is called the absolute existence. Senang. Everything goes back to him. Absolute. What it means by absolute is a Latin word, I think. Absolute, meaning it cannot be broken into pieces. Macam there's a Latin word, ab initio, without beginning. So orang asli, what is it? What the word is in English? Aborigine. It means ab-origin. Without origin, it's already there. Sebab tu in Arabic we call it asli, asal. It's a true word, translation, you know. Asal. In Malay, kita orang asal.
Up is
Up without. Origin. Aborigine. Without, where do you come originally from? Kedah.
original from, yeah.
That's what it is.
Oh, asli.
So, this is why the intuition of existence is actually really experiencing this existence, and we do experience it, but it is it is subconscious that we are not conscious about it. And that is why I think why the Quran has been mentioning that, you know, you must really constantly make dhikr, because this is what it is. Because at every moment you are being recreated, it is by virtue of the existence that is gifted to you. So the elements of metaphysics come in play. Tapi in terms of religious discussion, kita kata Allah jadikan kita pada setiap masa. Yeah, it is there in the Quran, you know. Balahum fi labsin min khalqin jadid. They are completely in the dark of this new creation. Khalqin jadid is quite powerful, Dato, because science has not learned to appreciate it properly. But they do understand, because, you know, particles do come into existence and out of existence in what is called dia punya lifetime. You know, there's a lifetime for every particle. Neutrinos and things like that. They look the same, Dato. There are many billions, zillions of neutrinos. They look the same, but they're not the one and the same. Sorry, they look similar, but they're not the same. That's the very fascinating. That's the best example is snowflakes. Snowflakes. No snowflakes are the same. They look they have in fact they have different shapes altogether. Although they came on the same day at the same time with the same temperature. So what brings that existence? And this is why here Prof. Attas mentioned our understanding of existence, that it is conscious. It has this. Why it is conscious? Because it is a knowledge of Allah Ta'ala. See, it is an aspect of Allah Ta'ala, and Allah Ta'ala works with it with knowledge. And this is why this existence, that's what we've been saying. I mean, theologically speaking, whatever happens, Allah Ta'ala knows about it, isn't it? So we have to react in such a way that we have to be what the Prophet said, Afalam akunu abdan shakura. I have to be a very grateful, obedient servant. This is why all prophets, whatever they went through, all kinds of difficulties, they never complained, really.
Mindfulness is consciousness.
Is consciousness.
Yeah.
Tapi why they use mindfulness as they want to get away from consciousness. This is a secularization of language, because they want to say it is the work of the mind. Now, this is where Prof. Attas wants to bring you back to the psychology of the human soul, where we have the ruh, which is spirit. وَنَفَخْتُ فِيهِ مِنْ رُوحِي. That's a problematic thing. What is it that you blew? So for some level of understanding, Allah Ta'ala blew in us His ruh. That is very literal. Allah Ta'ala blew in His spirit. Then some people may misinterpret that by saying, oh, we have God's spirit in us, so we are godly, we are divine. You cannot touch me, you know. I'm a small miniature God. God blew in me. But that's not what we, the Muslim, understand. We say it is ruh. I'll go into it in a bit nanti to explain what it means, really. Prof. al-Attas explained in the book Nature of Man, Psychology of the Human. So once the ruh is blew into the jasad, the body of man, that ruh became predominantly predisposed to look after the body. It becomes nafs. It becomes the soul of man, nafs. And that is why the description of activities in relation to the animation of that body is called nafas. You bernafas. Breathing is the very first, attribute of a living body, you know. When I think about this, Dato, sorry to share a little bit of a personal experience, because not many people know this, but I'm sorry, you know, our daughter was born with the lungs not fully developed, so she wasn't breathing, so she didn't last a few hours, you know. So you can see it, you cannot be a human being without the breathing apparatus, and that's the function of the soul. See, but the soul comes from, it is being gifted existence by God. Sebab itu we have this idea, the fetus in the mother's womb, at a certain age, the ruh is blown into the fetus. What it means is that it's being given life. So it's very early on. That's why it is a sentient being altogether from the very beginning. That's why in Islam, abortion is not something we take very lightly. Very serious abortion. We generally don't agree with it. But there is a condition to it too. If it threatens the mother's life, then the mother's first. Yeah. So even, for example, my wife's case, 3 times the doctor came. Please decide. Please decide. And I say it's the mother's decision to make, you know. So she decided to carry on. But the baby didn't survive, as I said. So what we went through, what Prof. al-Attas explains, it's so really true, you see. And this is what, when I read this, Dato, I really truly appreciate what he has written, because it is truly what we experience as a human being. You have parts of it that has to do with theoretical knowledge that we have learned as a student, you know. I learned a little bit of physics. I've seen, you know, heavenly bodies called planets and things, observing my astronomy class or what have you. So looking at this, then it really rings clearly in my mind that, you know, what he has written is really a description of what is true and real. And this is why Prof. al-Attas emphasized the term, we are talking about what is true and real. And that is called existence. It is true and real. Unlike what is happening in Western philosophy, as you see, existence is only a concept. Contoh, you call someone in an office, kata, I call Dr. Hilmi, katakan, so I get his assistant. Dr. Hilmi ada tak? Then dia kata ada. What does it mean? He is in the office, physically. But when he steps out, dia kata, Dr. Hilmi tak ada. Does he wujud? He is wujud. He exists, but it's not being contained in time and space. That's the thing, you see. So our existence has been, our idea of existence has been transplanted into the concept of ada. Sebab itu, you know, dalam Quran kata, you know, for those who died, don't say that they died, you know, the shuhada and things like that. Walakin, you know, la tash'urun, but you cannot feel them. Wala taqulu amwatan, but ahya, they are still alive, but you don't see them, you cannot feel them. See? Now this is the realm of the, what is called apa? Ghaib. It's part of the metaphysics. But we are not going into that detail of it. We are talking about existence now. So you do actually experience existence. So another explanation Prof. Attas gives is in the chapter on, I think.
So yang non-Islam, they are, I mean, in Islam, true and real. In non-Islamic thinking?
What is seen is real.
Oh.
It may not be true.
Okay.
Yeah. For example, I can hear from what you're saying, but you may not be saying the real thing, the true thing. See, you know?
Real, but not necessarily true.
No. Yeah. And that's what a secular world is all about, because there's no truth in anything now. Remember, it's now is the realm of post-truth. We're not interested in truth anymore. The best thing they say, let's get real, man. I don't care about what is truth. I want to get real. So, but from the Islamic point of view, why is truth and real must be one? Because that is the nature of the virtue and value that we live by. See? Otherwise, the scientific world, Dato, that we are studying is real, but it may not be true. So it becomes an academic exercise. Betul tak? It can become an academic exercise, which is why some people do it because it's an academic game, an intellectual game, for the fun of it, you know. But for us, no. It is really knowledge that you will accrue, and it will become something that for your timbangan amal, the mizanul amal later. Because this, as I was explaining in the past here, that's why in Arabic, verb is called fi'il. But fi'il in Arabic is under a certain form. And that form in Arabic is called wazan. Wazan in Arabic means something that is weighted. In English, there is no such connotation. I act. Okay, action. But in Arabic, what kind of action are you referring to? The first form, second form, third form, fifth form, all the way to maybe 14th form. It has a different degree of effect. Yeah. So this is why we must understand these things. And Professor al-Attas is trying to bring back again, this is why we are missing this part. Our religion becomes something completely almost like khayal. But sorry to use the term, because the word khayal in our experience is also real. See? But real to a certain extent. Question? Ada?
Khayal in Islam is also real. Could be real.
I know. We'll get to that. Khurafat. Yeah. Okay, yeah, that, in fact, it is related to what Dato is saying. How do you deal with the khayal part? Okay? This is why we have to go back to the nature of man's psychology, the human soul. Khayal has to do with one of the internal senses of the soul. One of the internal senses of the soul. Khayal is translated as imaginary, or imagination, I should say. Okay? The active part of it is mutakhayila. That's also part of it. Now, when when I hold this cup, I can have a nice appreciation of its shape, color, things like that, and I have something conjures in my mind. Oh, this is like a certain blue that's so typically of a certain Chinese dynasty, but it's also there in the Russian tradition, because we have something similar to this, but it's typically Russian made. So it brings something in my mind. It strikes in my mind. That is called the faculty of imagination. It is very real. Without that reality, although we might think of it not real, betul tak? But it is real in that realm of the intellect. Because if it is not real, the intellect cannot entertain to think on it. It is called, let me backtrack a little bit. When we experience things at the level of sense perception, that is called mahsusat ataupun sensibilia, what you feel. But when it goes from the let's put it this way, from one level of interpretation, the senses travels through our nerves in electrical signals, they say, and it goes to the brain, and the brain interprets the electrical signals through networks of neurons or whatever you. Now here's the problem. Who and what interprets those signals? Is it just the brain? But there has been experiments and experiences that people, even not having certain parts of their brain, they are able to perform. And sometimes they are able to perform something even more fantastic. Like for example, autistic and genius. They don't function with a normal human brain. Their brain is just unbelievable. In fact, they don't function with a normal brain activity. It's entirely different, as I say. And this is what the metaphysics is all about. This is what the power of the soul. This is what the power of the soul. But if you just limit your understanding of the nature of human soul, the psychology of it, from the background of empirical science, you're going to be very limited. So coming back, you have Then the senses being interpreted, being collected. From our point of view, nature of man, psychology of the human soul, those signals, we don't talk about electrical signals, we talk about sense signals, or from the senses. They are collected and they are kept. What collects it and where is it kept? So what collects it is what is called the sensus communis, the common sense, not the common sense on tepi jalan. It's a common sense, meaning it's like a server. It receives all kinds of, like the dulu operator telephone. They get calls, one main center. They get all kinds of things. The color, the taste, the sight, the size of things, they collect it. But how do they collect it? It has a function called the hafidha, the recollection, and dhakira, to bring it back into memory. But when it tries to bring it back to memory, to think of, like I said, when I look at this, it reminds me of a ceramic piece that Professor Tatiana gave me, which is at our apartment. That is the khayal part. It is true and real. And this is why, if the khayal is not active and real, it will be very difficult for our wives to cook. Because they could have imagined how the food will come out,
Khayal is imagination.
Khayal is imagination. It is real, and it's very important that to see in the world of creativity. Yeah, the world talks about being creative.
Tapi kalau berkhayal, jenis suka berkhayal.
Unfortunately, we have looked at
Samsu
it.
suka berkhayal.
Unfortunately, we have looked at it a very negative aspect.
Yeah.
But khayal is a very positive aspect. Just like, for example, remember the Western education pedagogy has been saying, don't memorize. Memorization is bad. But hafidha, as I said, to recollect, to keep it, it's very important. That's why dalam Quran, wa inna lahu lahafidhun. The Quran says that Allah will maintain the Quran. And this is why we, in our tradition, hafidh Quran. Their mind is something else. We have never done a proper so-called psychological analysis on them. Betul tak? But that's why some of them, after they become hafiz, they take SPM in just 1 year. They can do it. Because their mind has been so sharp at memorization, they can pick up something very fast. But, this is what, that's why he puts a chapter, Dato Sri, in this framework, the nature of man, the psychology of the human soul, for us to really to understand. And what does this experience of the human soul? It's the intuition of existence. It's completely, it's, as they say in the language of baseball, far afield right now. Unfortunately, it's far afield. But from the Muslim, this is what the genius of Professor al-Attas. He brings it about back again into one collection of ideas for us to really appreciate these things. And this is why he wants us to appreciate the intuition of existence, because it is real. Cuma we experience it at different levels, and sometimes we are not conscious of it. See? For example, I'll give you an example. When the Prophet ﷺ, the hadith Jibril came to see him. Betul tak? All the Sahaba thought they saw a human being. Yes, angels can take the form of a human being, but the Prophet can tell exactly this is not a human being. Because that's why when he asked the Sahaba, do you know who that was? They said, no, Allah wa Rasul alam. That's Jibril who came to teach you your religion. Yeah. This is why, as I said, the Prophet ﷺ, he has been gifted with with the dua, Arinal Ashya Kama Hiya. And the word Mahiya is being mentioned a lot in this intuition of existence, and after that, quiddity and essence, and then after that, degrees of existence. This is what Professor al-Attas is trying to bring back, the framework of metaphysics of Islam, that it has to do with something called essence and existence, essence and quiddity, because it has to do with what you entertain as knowledge, what is in your mind, Dato Sri.
What does Mahia mean?
Can you?
Mahia.
It's okay, I know, but
You have to.
Yeah. What exactly does Mahia means?
Okay. She's jumping another chapter. It's in the chapter of quiddity and essence. Mahia is a derivative of two words in Arabic, ma and hiya. Ma is what, hiya is the feminine of it, you know. So hiya, she. So because the word reality, haqiqah, is feminine in gender, that is why the question goes ma hiya. Ataupun in relation of knowledge of something, in relation to knowledge of something, our ulama and Prof. al-Attas use it here. Ma bihi syai'un huwa huwa. That by which a thing is what it is, as translated into English. That by which a thing what it is existence. It is existence, not the essence of it, not the that. See? This is something quite intricate. Okay, let's go and look into this. As I said, I'm sitting here. Basically, what you see is a person. He dressed in a certain way. So that dressing is basically attributes. Betul tak? Attributes, which are called in the language of philosophy, and here it's called accident. Because why it is accident? Well, it can be taken away. It's not something really essential. It can be taken away. So I can take off my baju Melayu, I put something else, you know. My favorite is Petronas t-shirt. Very comfortable at home. You know? So does that in any way diminish my quality as Zainiy? No. Because there is something in me that makes me Zainiy, not that Zainiy. Remember, we've been talking about this. So this is why there is an essence in us called humanity. We are insaniyah. But you don't see that insaniyah aspect. But that's a word. Okay, there's a ruh in us. There's a spirit. But certainly his spirit and mine is not the same. We call that, our essence is the ruh. But we're not the same. So then, how did his ruh get existence? Then the answer is, the existence that is in the soul. That is far more essential than the soul. It's his essence. His essence is entirely different from mine. Where the soul, the nafs, is entirely different from mine. Dia ada different capacity dan sebagainya. That's why he's now Professor Emeritus, you see. So he's of a laudable standing, you know.
Emeritus min pencen.
Still, it's a gelaran nonetheless. No, but the point is, that's what it is. So this is why Laureate asked the right question. Because in order to experience existence, what is it that you experience? When I was saying I was experiencing, I'm experiencing the sifa of this thing, not the essence of it yet. Because for food, the essence of food is in what we call the nutrients of it. And I remember, this is why it rings always when we talk about these things, you know. Erwin Schrödinger, when he was holding a dinner because he won the Nobel Prize, he said, what if I were to tell you that we are not having lamb, we're having atoms and molecules? That's the essence of it. So it takes away all the fun. There's no taste in atoms or molecule, except when you go perhaps at the level of quarks, then there's a little bit brown, you know, there's a bit of color and things, what have you. So that's what it is. The mahiyah of something. Do we experience the mahiyah? And this is what Professor al-Attas is trying to say. The intuition is the intuition of the mahiyah of something, the essence of something. And it is existence. Do you experience it? Yes, you do. But unfortunately, at the level of separation, first separation, it has to be what you call, ini vitamin. You know, this is the taste of this. You know, for example, for orang negeri sembilan, if the food is not pedas, that's not real food. It doesn't come to the standard of orang negeri sembilan. Betul tak? Orang Kelantan, if it is not sweet, you kena cook gula. It's not real food for them yet. But the essence in the food is not in the gula or in the pedas. You see? It's the taste of it, and the essence of it. What is the essence? That's why this, and Prof has been saying, really, you go down, take all those what is called accidents of the thing, you finally reach existence. You must stop at existence, because beyond it, no existence. And that's why resistance is, Professor has been saying, it must be true and real. Now, this is the fascinating part. What is the definition of iman? It is at-tasdiq biqalb. Betul tak? Al-iqrar bil-lisan wal-amalu bi-jawarih. Unfortunately, Dato Sri, for us, most of us, when we define iman, it's only at the level of amal bi-jawarih. Because you look at the effects of the person. Oh, dia pakai jubah, balik haji. InsyaAllah, bersih, he's clean. 7 kali pergi umrah, masya-Allah. You look at the amal, see? But the iqrar, meaning, have you talked to him about what he understands as Islam? You found out that his Islam is maybe standard 6 level. And this is what Prof was saying, fardu ain on us to understand these things. Ilmu Tawheed. But right now, our ilmu Tawheed is only at the numerical level, which in the Lata'if, Asrar li Ahlillahi Atiyar, Raniri was saying, if you were to think God oneness as the number 1 as opposed to 2, to 3, to 4, it's still shirk. Because you put his sifah along with other numbers. You put him within numerical consideration. Astaghfirullah al-Azim. And this is why his oneness is not like the one of number 1. So how to think of this? And this is where Prof. al-Attas was saying in the degrees of existence. At the moment of, for example, intuition of existence, or the fana or whatever, meaning you experiencing something. To give you an analogy, I'm sure many of you have been tasting asam pedas. Either your wife makes it, a restaurant makes it, but different asam pedas taste differently. This is what Prophet is trying to say to explain the word Allahu Akbar means. Above all of this, what we see existence, Allah SWT is greater than these things. Because he is beyond description. So whatever description he gives in terms of his asma al-husna wa sifatul udma, that is something or names that we can understand. Beyond which we cannot talk about him.
So the words one for God is very misleading.
It is very misleading.
Because when we have one, we have two. Yeah.
But that's why we never talk about Allah Wahid. We talk about Tawheed, Allah Ta'ala, betul tak? Why? What it means, as I've been saying, the word Tawheed is the masdar of the second form of the Arabic, which is referring to our action of really trying to make and think, experience Allah Ta'ala as one. That's what Tawheed is all about. It's a very emphasis kind of how do you say? Yeah, it's a very detailed kind of thing. So I translate that as Tawheed actually is affirming the oneness of God, or the unity of God. But the best word is unity, him being one, but we shouldn't think of him as one like one. That's why eventually la tufakkaru fi fi dhatillah walakin tafakkaru fi ala'illah. Do not think on God's essence, because that is beyond our ken of understanding. So this is why in this discussion, because it is within the domain of what is what is mentally, logically understandable, we have to use the term which philosophers use, which is wajib, and then wujud, meaning necessary existence. Because God must be necessary by existence, because his existence is not caused by anything else.
Okay, questions?
One question. I'm not defending Western philosophy, but nowadays there is a branch called noetic science where they study about consciousness, intuition. So isn't that somehow show that philosophy is also can be a holistic approach to life?
Yes, that's what it was all about in the beginning. The project of Socrates, Plato, and Aristotle was that to combat the sophists, where their project was really the sophists. That is, the project was not so much about knowledge and what is called the truth in knowledge. So the Muslim project, as far as knowledge is concerned, to bring it even to the final and more so-called, from our point of view, rational logical end, that is, all knowledge comes and returns to God. For them, no, all knowledge is from us. Like, remember Socrates was saying, I'm only a midwife, the knowledge already in you, I want to pull out. So this noetic science is trying to go to that part. And we're not denying what they're doing, that's fine, but we are saying, as far as the Muslims concerned, all knowledge, the source is from God. And here's the point. In the book, I was telling my wife, maybe one of these days we have to think about talking about Fazl Rahman's book. In his book, and I posted this in my Facebook, his PhD thesis, Avicenna Psychology. He's Aristotelian, Ibn Sina. How do we know things? How do we know things? According to Aristotle and Ibn Sina, the intellect, our intellect, somehow has a connection with what is called the active intellect or active intelligence. The term being used in Arabic is al-aqlul fa'al, which is really, Ibn Sina, in order to solve this problem, he associates that with Jibra'il. So Fazl Rahman says, well, if every human being is able to be in touch with Jibra'il, that makes us natural prophecy. We are all natural prophets. We have a problem. So that's why Fazl Rahman said, no, it's Alhamdulillah for the traditional Muslim like Shahrastani, Ibn Taymiyyah, and others, Ibn Khaldun in the book Avicenna Psychology, and another book called Prophecy and Orthodoxy. What is it? Ilmi? Rahman's book.
Orthodoxy.
Between philosophy and orthodoxy, prophecy. Yeah, prophecy. He said in that book that it's the Muslim so-called traditional scholars that somehow bring back and solve the problem of prophecy. Otherwise, we have natural prophecy. So, how do we know things? Well, that's the thing. The Western scholars will have a problem. They think that we produce knowledge. We are the makers of our own knowledge. We discover things. No, not from the Muslim point of view. This is why, from our point of view, Allah Ta'ala deposits the ma'na, meanings, the lata'if, the secrets, the asrars, subtleties, and at the highest point is the wahyu. That's why in the Quran it says, Nazzalahu ala qalbika. We reveal it to your qalb, to the Prophet. The Quran was sent directly to the qalb of the Prophet, and that's the highest degree of knowledge. Betul tak? So the Prophet did not use his intellect. This is why at the highest level of what is called intuition of existence is actually experiencing wahyu. But we cannot do that because we are of a lower degree. I cannot even have experiences of seeing the world like the Nobel Prize winner in physics or whatever. They saw something else, And we know this, scientists like mathematicians, they see the world in a different way. They don't see the world like we do. Huh? Yeah.
So ada the concept, say for example, fana, al-fana and whatnot. Yeah.
Okay. Fana is very interesting. It is translated as passing away. All right? I was trying to think of how to explain this. The other day, I happened to be watching because what is fana actually? We may understand it literally as passing away, losing consciousness. And some people in the ancient or older translation, they call it annihilation. Well, I read all these things, Dato Sri. It makes no sense at all. But when Professor Attas was saying he translated as passing away, I have to look at it. And then the other day, you know, musicians, great composers, when they talk about their music, it is not the whole music. They talk about the in-between notes. That is where the musicality is. That interim, that interregnum, it's like a silence. Tapi that moment is actually when you actually feel the music, when silence is there. As I said, you know, you don't feel your head until you have a headache. So the music of the world, you don't actually experience it until you hear silence. So the appreciation of music is actually in between the notes, the moving. And this really strikes me because Professor Attas was saying, what is knowledge? Or what is thinking? Is the movement of the soul from meaning to meaning. Wow, that's fascinating. So it's almost like that definition of appreciation of music, you see? So the passing away, Dato Sri, is that upper. Now, you cannot think of this as an interval in time because this is the experience of the soul. The soul doesn't experience time. So it may be momentarily. It's so quick, you know? It's so quick. But right now, we, at this manner of existence, we are bound in the realm of time and space. Time is duration in period. Space is extension in dimension. But our soul, we don't know. We don't know what size is the soul because it doesn't apply, you see? So that passing away, Dato Sri, can be misleading, just like the word God is one, you know? It can be very misleading. You shouldn't think of it like that. So don't think of it, you know, you sit down and you're passing away. No, fana,
So,
no.
Orang dalam kubur tu not necessarily waiting for...
No,
they're not waiting. They are not waiting.
Yeah, in fact, their souls experience time differently. In fact, they don't experience time, but what is allotted to them. That's why they said some people feels like 1,000 years. But subhanallah, Allah Ta'ala has made in such a way that some people feel it very quickly.
Dia tak betul lah kata-kata lama nak menunggu berapa lama nak
Because they have entered a different dimension. We are not talking about yani khurafat ni.
So
this is alam ghaib.
That's existence lah. Their existence
Yes,
is different
level of existence. They exist nonetheless. Macam Jibril, all the angels, they exist. They may be with us now, but we just don't feel them. You know. That's why it's very comforting to know this. It's very comforting, and also we can feel very, we can feel solace at the fact that when we make dua to our parents, betul tak? This is what it is, really, because it's amazing. Itu yang there's a saying of the hadith of the Prophet, you know, the life of a Muslim, you know, you cannot be, you cannot be hopeless. You cannot be out of the mercy of God, you know, because every point that you do is actually an ibadah, and you are connected with it. Fascinating. This is why the metaphysics of Islam, Dato Sri, Prof. al-Attas is not trying to bring back Western philosophy of metaphysics in it, but trying to bring what is really in the domain of metaphysics in Islam out of the bound of very limited understanding of religion into something which is more alive. It's real. It's true and real. Cuma he uses the contemporary language. See? Kalau tidak, we fail to appreciate it because we put it in the wrong compartment. It's like your book, you misplace it, dah.
Okay, question. We have 10 minutes to go.
Prof sebut khayal. Khayal tu macam mana dikatakan dia positif khayal yang positif. Okay. Sebab kalau kita pun diajar tentang bersangka baik, as against to bersangka buruk kan. Tapi khayal yang positif ini bila Prof sebut ia juga satu subset daripada knowledge dan sebagainya. Kan mungkin Prof boleh detail.
Professor Attas mentioned dalam Nature and Psychology of the Human Soul, you have two aspects of khayal. One is mutakhayyila and the other one is mutawahham. yang mutawaham ni is the one that can deal with estimation, the waham part. Okay, the waham part is exactly a little bit wild because it does estimate things. Sometimes it estimate, and it does something very wild. Like for example, you have a unicorn, shape of a horse with a, with a horn on the head. No such thing exists, but it can be made, and you can make it into a cartoon character or whatever. The other aspect is the khayal, which is mutakhayila, which is something more associated with creativity, and if it is used properly, it can bring about what Prof. al-Attas is saying, science and technology. And this is why when you want to create something, you tend to push the limits of what you know, and that is actually an exercise in khayal. When you say, what if we put this here? This is opposite to what is understood in the West as doubting. No, we don't doubt. We're just pushing things to the limit. Nampak tak? Like, okay, a certain medicine requires a certain dosage. It is as a function of the weight of the person, because it has to do with the physical aspect. So a baby will have this dosage, a certain amount, very little of this, otherwise it can be very harmful. So some person may take one Panadol, may have no effect, but for some person the same Panadol can be very, very bad. A painkiller can have a very bad effect on some people. So that's how it is. So this khayal is very important for us to exercise, that we somehow control it. You see, like all kinds of poets. When they want to write poetry, ask Dato Seri, he plays with words. That is khayal. But he can khayal at the meaning of it. But then he said, no, this is not what I meant. Scratch it. Yeah. So the waham is for the sensitive part. It's very important for the creation of arts and creative works. But for the science, it has to do with khayal, which has to do with the scientific and technological work. And you do exercise this thing. You must. And this is why, for creativity's sake, you must emphasize. This is why Prof. al-Attas in the diagram of the human soul, for the creation, he puts it under rational, not the cognitive. Not the cognitive. It's under one page. That's one.
176.
176. See this one. It's the creative part, this part. It's under rational. It's still under rational. Meaning, you can use waham, but guarded. It's being guarded and guided by reason. Fascinating, really. Okay.
Ada lagi 7 minit.
Oh, tak rasa.
I was just reminded about this experiment that was conducted about the weight of the human soul.
Yeah.
The 21 grams, right? So 21 grams refer to the weight of the human soul. So what do you think? I mean, that's the effort of the Western scientists in justifying there is a soul.
Before the person breathes his last, they weigh it, and then the person expired, they weigh it again, and there's a certain I don't know, but from our point of view, the soul has no weight whatsoever. It has no weight, it has no age, and this is why the soul, like we now, that we are in the 60s.
I'm just 60.
You are, see, because it's still drawn at the 50, 40 kind of feeling. I remember when I first had problems with my health, I went to see the doctor, and I said, I don't want to mention the doctor's name. I said, doctor, why is it that, I don't feel like I'm 20? And he said, Zaini, do you know something called aging? I said, what is it? It's aging. Your body is no longer what you were 20 years ago. You are now 40. I said, why is it I don't feel like 40? I feel that I am being held down. I want to run as fast. No, you cannot. See, because that is the soul talking. That's the soul talking. And that's why I see, when we still in the hype of something, you can work for many hours not stopping. Betul tak? And after that, you get really tired.
One of the Nobel Prize recently in chemistry or in biology, saying that cell is reproduced, can be reproduced. So if you are not able to understand how to reproduce your cell, you will be aging very fast. Yeah, but if you know how to regenerate regenerative science, they call it now. So you can feel that 100 is just an age, you know.
An age, yeah.
Yeah, so yang banyak orang tengok kenapa Japan they have more than 95,000 Japanese are exceeding 100 years of age now. 95,000. Yeah, 80 is young for them.
Yeah.
90 is I'm just 90. So the recent news during this summer, one Japanese climbed Fuji, Mount Fuji, and he was 102, the oldest.
Wow.
Yeah, they said that, oh, I make myself younger. I know how to reproduce my cell. Say, for example, to produce your brain cell, you have to learn new things.
Yeah, yeah, betul.
Yeah, that's easy. You cannot remember old thing because old thing is old files. So you have to have a new files. New file means new thing. Then you keep on forgetting old files. So old file is closed and new chapters coming. So the easiest way to create new files of your brain is by traveling. So start traveling when you are 80 or 70. And then you get more new files. New file means you experience new things. That again, experience new things. And to read, yes. To study, yes. That keep your brain healthier. And I keep on being reminded by my friend, make your brain active. Don't be at home. Don't something like that. You know, to keep you moving. And then make sure that your body is also able to regenerate new cells of your parts. So that is by exercising and eating and experiencing enough rest and whatnot, so that the cell will be growing very fast. Tu ceritanya lah, betul tak betul, wallah. Apa? Intuition of existence. Okay, we have final thing. Yes, Dato Irmo. Dato Irmo ni ada 10 PhD ya? Apa? 3 PhD.
Prof, I just want to ask you a question about the framework of thoughts. How to relate the framework of thoughts with intuitions of existence? Thank you.
The very interesting question. As I said at the very outset, we, right now, most of us are unaware of the nature of existence as propounded by Islam in the framework of the metaphysics of Islam. And this is what the project of Professor al-Attas. And he's trying to bring our attention to it. What is happening now in many parts of our lives, particularly right now, what is more urgent at the level of morality. You see how corruption is very rampant in our parts of the world.
Everywhere.
Yeah, everywhere. In fact, somebody many years ago, an American came to my house, and he was this is pre-election, so he said, "What do you think? Isn't Malaysia corrupt? And you know, you should be fighting corruption." I said, corruption is a disease everywhere, and it's like a cancer. You give it a room to grow, it will eat you up. You have to maintain it. It's like a cancerous cell in your body. So this is what it is. We have to maintain a certain way of looking at things, the framework. Now that framework has to be based on something very fundamental, and this is what Professor al-Attas was saying. I want to point to you again, because people miss this. Intuition of existence, a fundamental basis of Islamic metaphysics, which is missing in our. We don't have a metaphysics as the basis of our thought right now, because we are now thinking more, because Professor al-Attas mentioned in the discussion about Islam and secularism, we are now being framed to think in a very secularized world, that metaphysics is not very important. So the very basic of it is to understand this intuition of existence. And this is why we have to revisit this again, Dato Sri. It'll take a long time for us to really appreciate this. As I was telling you, I started reading this work when I came back in 1991. The book was produced in 1990. And I did the index of this, so I have read it many times. But after many years of reading, thinking, and wide reading, eventually I get it. And this is why I was telling Dr. Ilmi, maybe I should, and Shukri, I should attempt to translate this into Malay, this whole book, Prolegomena to Metaphysics of Islam, into Malay. Right now I'm in the final chapter, the degrees of existence, half of it. So perhaps, inshallah, if everything works well, maybe next year, the second half of next year, we have this thing in Malay. We need to bring this again, because that's what see. Right now, we do not have a counter metaphysics, because we are teaching. I graduated in physics and astronomy. I've been so entrenched in thinking of that. It is only when I took classes on history of science at the University of Wisconsin Madison that I begin to understand, hey, science is a product of thought. It is not out there. And I remember one interview. You see, we experience the world. But what we understand of the world is the work of scientists now. Betul tak? Who shaped that scientific interpretation? Who shaped that scientific interpretation? That's why you have empiricists, you have idealists, your Prof says in Islam and the philosophy of science. You have whatever, scientific philosophies that goes behind it. And we fail to appreciate this. Right now we don't teach it at the young one. We teach it at the higher level, because this takes re-evaluation at the higher level. Something that a cap should do.
I want to stop here because we can have another session. On 27th of December. Are you okay? 27th of December. Where is she's
the calendar keeper.
No, the plan keeper. Yeah. So, well, I try to get it on 27th, because on 22nd I'm on the way back from Tokyo then. I'm going to Tokyo for 2 weeks. Boleh Dah ada kan? So next session, we try to finish next year, and this year, this book, because we might have another book after this book before Ramadan. Yeah.
Oh, okay.
We have Ramadan will be on inshallah February 16.
Oh.
So if you can do January and February earlier,
okay,
and then unless you want to break fast here, so it's okay for me. And then inshallah we plan ahead. Yeah. With that, I thank everyone. We thank Professor Zainiy Uthman for his time, and all of us here. I'm so sorry not to be able to invite more than these 20 or 30 people because of the space limitation. But you will be able to revisit the YouTube, Facebook, whatever, then keep on learning new things. With that, I thank everyone. Assalamualaikum warahmatullahi wabarakatuh. Dua lagi combo.